We want to make sure that children have a balanced diet. More importantly, that they are almost thinking, if I said to you, how many times a day do you eat? You'd probably say to me, kind of 3 times a day plus an odd snack. And that would be what we'd do if we weren't exercising. So our body needs a certain amount of energy intake from all the food groups, not just thinking in terms of calories, but just getting a balanced diet, and particularly in children. And so what we've got to think about is most of us need 3 meals a day just to meet our body's health requirements, like just to keep our heart going, our lungs going, our brain going. And then you need, if you think of it in terms of another fuel pot, you need your training fuel. So we then think about, right, well, on top of my 3 meals a day, if my kid's doing high intensity sport, then I would need to do a big fuel pot for them on that day of extra meals. So before and after training, if they're doing 2 units of training a day, before and after both sets of training. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is they'll go to what I'd call our healthy battery, the 3 meals a day source, and they'll borrow from it. And that's when our bone health starts to go. And the really important signs for parents are if we are showing those early signs of the body not coping with what it's doing, it's just teetering on the edge of its capacity. The first thing that we start to see is sore throats. So we start to see that the kid gets recurrent viruses. Really good sign that the body's just borrowing from the pot for health and starting to affect immunity. So if the kid's getting recurrent viruses, we know that they need more recovery. They're not coping. What else can we do? Probably try fueling them first. Give them a good night's sleep. The next sort of things that we start to see then are just niggly injuries. My foot hurts this week. My knee hurts next week. Not so much that they're actually not able to play, but just those niggly injuries, but also a bit more stressy. So I always kind of say to kids, how sore are you? How tired are you? How stressy are you? Stressy translate into American?
I think that's a new word for us, but I'll take it.
Grumpy. What else can you tell me what
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can translate it.
Yeah.
So we're looking for those signs that the body is just irritated. It's just not coping. And then we all know that then if we are getting a bit more stressed on our body, then we don't sleep as well. And the very thing we need most, we're not getting. So we start, if we talk to these kids, begin to recognize that a lot of teenagers, we talk about them, basically not being as sociable. They're tired all the time. They're not as motivated. Well, most of them are hungry. They're
Mhm.
just basically not getting enough fuel for what they do. And if we actually just fed the kids as much as they're doing in training and fuel them for every activity, we'd probably find they'd become nicer in the family home as well. So if that goes on and on a little bit more, we begin to see that periods in the girls then become irregular. So we start to see that maybe the distance between periods gets a bit greater. And if the child gets to a point where they're not having 9 periods in every 12 months, then they are at real risk of a bone stress injury. There's other gynecology reasons why that might happen, but the most common one would be low energy availability. So effectively, what we're then saying is these kids have got to know about these signs. Parents have got to know about these signs. These podcasts you do are phenomenal for raising awareness in terms of saying to parents, if these signs and symptoms come, you need to go and get some blood tests. We need to understand what's going on.
That was so insightful because I think with the first signs of this, like you said, the frequent sicknesses and viruses, I think some parents just brush it off as, well, kids get sick all the time, and then they ignore it. And then when they're always sore or kind of banged up from their sport, they also ignore it because they're like, well, it's just sports. But if it's chronic, yes, that's definitely a red flag. And then the periods with the girls, that's definitely a big one. I think that's a very glaring one for a lot of people. But yeah, the sicknesses and the soreness is really good because those are tend to be the ones that people just ignore. So I really appreciate you getting into that. Now, is there anything else you would add to just the signs or how parents can take action with all this, just to make sure that their daughter's bone health is just on the right track for these years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what we should be sort of focusing it on is making sure that their capacity, think of it like a phone battery, is how I often describe it to the children. Every day that phone needs plugging into the mains. So every day the kid needs to get some good quality sleep. We know that you actually make bone density, you make bone tissue at night. So if they don't get deep quality sleep, we don't get some of the bone factors released, and effectively that can hamper our bone health by day. So focusing on, if you said to the kid, look, there's a real way here that if we got half an hour extra sleep, or maybe even an hour extra sleep every night, that would be the same as getting a whole night's sleep extra per week. And that would increase your bone density, but it would also increase your performance. So trying to work with the kids to get that little bit of better sleep quality as well as sleep quantity. And then looking to make sure that they eat breakfast. So we have so many busy kids that, if they're training early, they don't want to eat before they train. Then they find that they're basically in energy deficit. Then maybe they're rushing to school and suddenly it all runs away with them. And by the time they've maybe got to their evening meal, we'll have children who are playing 3 and 4 units of sport a day who've probably eaten once, if we're lucky. And so they then think, well, as long as I eat a big dinner, it'll be good. But unfortunately, we know that bone health likes regular intermittent boosts of all the food groups. So hugely important that these kids get off to a good start with the good healthy breakfast and then send them into school with an extra snack. So my 2 kids played elite sport. They would each have a big chicken sandwich at their morning break. So breakfast would be like 7:30, 8 o'clock, 3 eggs, scrambled eggs, lots of avocado. So you're always looking for, if the kid wants a piece of toast, put some peanut butter on it. If the kid wants like bagels loaded up with cream cheese and avo. So you can always enhance just snacks you'd already give them, but just adding a little few more energy inputs through things like mayonnaise, avocado, peanut butter. There's so many different ways we can do this. So my guys would eat full breakfast, lots of like cooked stuff, and then they would then eat a chicken wrap or a chicken sandwich at break time. Then they'd have their lunch, and then they'd have a snack, usually like a milk drink or something ahead of doing sport after school. And then they'd have their dinner and a snack before bed. So I bet you my kids ate 6 times a day. Not necessarily massive portions because they didn't want a big full tummy to play on. But we were literally, every time they did something, we refueled.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that. And I think it really speaks to the commitment that families have to make to have fueling discipline because I know like everyone's busy, everyone's rushing out the door, or maybe they're sleeping through their alarm, but fueling for health and performance in kids, it does take work and
It
preparation. And
does.
I think first and foremost, it's about the kids' health and their proper bone development. That is so key. And I know a lot of people listening, they skip breakfast. Their daughters skip breakfast. So I really hope this resonates with you because like you said, if they wait all the way to dinner, even if it's a large meal, it's still like maybe 500 calories. So it's like kids need thousands of calories based on who you are and your height and weight. But yeah, that one dinner is not enough. So thank you for just repeating the importance of that.
I think to highlight that as well is that if, say, for example, a child comes to me and they are in energy deficit, we coin the term relative energy deficiency in sport. And that's really where they've got symptoms. They're having that period irregularity or the periods of stop, maybe a bone stress, and even some psychological involvement as well. But once they've got those symptoms, it's easy to turn around that energy deficit, providing the kid hasn't got any sort of disordered eating. We can turn that around in a matter of days, but the bone health takes months and months to recover. So the hormonal system takes months and months to recover. So we don't want to get to that point. This could be something that could, if we don't get this bone mineral density as a teenager and a young adult, you can't get it in later life. You can't go, oh, well, we got it wrong, let's patch it up. Doesn't work like that. There's this window of opportunity. And if we miss that window through not getting enough energy for what we do or not giving them the right exposure to sport, we run risks of long-term health issues. And the same applies to other systems in the body. So this is something I'm passionate to share. So thank you for the opportunity.